it still doesn't feel real. 1 minute, I was standing on stage in a $1,000 suit, smiling in front of cameras, holding a National Innovation Award with our CEO's name plastered all over it. The next, I was in his office, being told I was no longer a cultural fit. No explanation, no thanks, just a handshake and a security escort. Before we dive in, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the month. I made a promise to my dog. Once we hit 10K, I'll buy him a brand new cooling mat. He's counting on you, and so am I. So if you enjoyed the story, please hit that subscribe button. My name is Jason Maddox. I'm 32, stubborn as hell, and I built my career by turning chaos into clarity until someone decided I was too good at it. The morning it happened, I was still high from the night before. Our team had just won the National Product Innovation Award, a huge deal in our field. It was the first time our firm, Everin Technologies, had been recognized on that level. And the product? I'd led the R&D for 16 brutal months, sacrificing weekends, relationships, sleep. I had the bags under my eyes and the scars on my social life to prove it. CEO Mason Hart gave the acceptance speech, said he'd guided the team with vision and resolve. I didn't mind. It was politics. Everyone knew who the architect was. My name was printed right there on the patent, after all. That morning, I showed up early, like always. I brought in donuts, the good kind, from Etta's on 4th, and left them on the break table with a handwritten note. Proud of this team. Let's build the next big thing together. Jay. At 10:07 a.m., Mason's assistant buzzed my line. Hey, Jason, can you pop into Mason's office for a sec? I figured it was about the post-award PR schedule, or maybe a private congratulations. Instead, Mason stood behind his glass desk, arms folded like a disappointed dad. Jason, he said without looking at me, we're going to have to let you go. I actually laughed. I thought it was a bad joke. Wait, what? Your contributions have been appreciated, but it's clear that your attitude and energy aren't aligning with Everin's evolving culture. I blinked. You mean the culture that just got us a national award? His jaw clenched. You've made yourself too central, too visible. That's not how we do things here. He clicked his mouse and rotated his monitor. An HR email was already drafted. Severance terms, NDA, exit interview link. It wasn't spur of the moment. This had been planned. I felt the room spin. You're firing me for being effective? He didn't answer. He just pressed the intercom and said, Security to 42D. I walked out with nothing but my coffee mug. My name was already erased from the internal comm system. It was like I'd never existed. But I wasn't done, not even close. Because what Mason didn't know was that I'd already been approached by a firm 3 times our size, only a week before the award. Vexora Labs West Coast Beast, known for poaching top talent from companies like ours. Their CTO, Layla Quinn, had reached out to me after reading my white paper on adaptive machine learning. We'd had one informal call. Nothing serious, just tech shop talk. At the time, I was loyal to Everin. I told her I wasn't looking. She said, You will be. Call me when you realize they don't deserve you. That call echoed in my skull as I sat in my car, the office tower shrinking in my rear view like a bad memory. I hadn't even made it to the freeway before I dialed her. She picked up on the second ring. Jason? Yeah, you were right. She didn't gloat. Just said, Come to San Francisco. Tomorrow, we'll cover it. I should have felt defeated. Instead, I felt something crack open in my chest, like a pulse of clarity. This wasn't a funeral. This was the start of a pivot. That night, I didn't sleep. I booked a flight. I backed up all the non-proprietary work I had, personal projects, ideas, pitch decks I'd crafted that Everin shelved. I also found an old Everin internal Slack channel, one Mason clearly forgot to remove me from. Rookie move. I didn't say anything, just watched. And what I saw there? It nearly made my blood boil. They were trying to spin the story. "We're reframing Jason's exit to show it was mutual," someone wrote. "Need to protect the brand. Too much visibility around the award," said another. But the kicker? Mason himself dropped this line. "People like Jason can't handle structure. Brilliant, but not team players. I gave him more leash than anyone." More leash? I practically built the damn kennel. The next morning, I stepped off the plane into Vixora's headquarters, all sunlight, steel, and coffee bars in every direction. Layla met me in the lobby. "You look tired," she said. I smirked. "I'm tired of being tired." We went straight to a glass conference room overlooking the bay. No small talk. No HR jargon. "You don't need to prove anything to us," she said. "We know who you are, what you've done, and we want you to build something that scares people." My breath caught. "You'd run your own team. You'd have budget control, autonomy, and the title, Director of Advanced Systems." I was silent for a beat, not from doubt, from disbelief. "I'm in," I said. But here's where things get complicated. Because a week later, Vixora made a press announcement. And it wasn't just about me joining. It was about a new initiative, something that would directly compete with the product I created at Everin. Except this version? It would be smarter, leaner, and mine again. Then Mason saw it. And he lost his damn mind. 3 hours. That's how long it took for my phone to blow up after Vixora's announcement went live. They posted it everywhere. TechCrunch, LinkedIn, even Wired picked it up. The headline? Vixora Labs taps Jason Maddox to lead disruptive AI initiative targeting predictive compliance tech. That was the product I'd created at Everin. They didn't own the concept, just the first implementation. And since Vixora's lawyers had dotted every legal I and crossed every petty T, there was nothing Everin could do but watch. I was in a strategy meeting when the first text came in, from a former colleague at Everin. "Dude, Mason just stormed out of an all-hands, slammed the door so hard the projector fell off the cart. What the did you do?" Then another, "He's calling you a traitor, said you stole his legacy. Bro, people are cheering in private chats." I stared at the texts, heart pounding but weirdly calm. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. Later that night, Layla and I went over the PR metrics. Engagement was through the roof. Vixora had positioned it perfectly, not as a petty poach, but as a move toward visionary independence. My independence. Layla raised her glass. "Welcome to the other side of the table." I toasted back, then checked my LinkedIn. Mason had posted a Reflections on Leadership essay. 3 paragraphs of vague, passive-aggressive nonsense. Sometimes high performers forget that real innovation requires humility. At Everin, we cultivate visionaries who play for the team, not the spotlight. The comment section was a mix of bootlickers and confused industry folks. But what Mason didn't realize, what he never considered, was that the people he dismissed, ignored, or quietly cut loose, they remembered. And they were watching. I started getting DMS. "Jason, I saw the news. Everin never deserved you. I'd love to connect." "Hey, are you hiring? I've had enough of the Hart regime." "I still have copies of those old proposals they buried. if you want them. That last one got me. Because among those old buried files was a prototype I'd once pitched, something Mason called too risky and too radical. But it was light years ahead of its time. A predictive ethics AI that could audit corporate bias in real time. Everin shelved it, killed it. Vexora greenlit it in 10 minutes. So yeah, Mason was unraveling. But he hadn't hit bottom yet. Because I wasn't just reclaiming what was mine. I was about to reveal what he'd buried. Something that could blow a hole in Everin's spotless public image. And I had the receipts. There was a reason Mason shelved the predictive ethics prototype. And it wasn't about risk. Back in my 3rd year at Everin, I developed a framework that could detect implicit bias in real-time hiring decisions. It flagged discriminatory patterns buried deep in corporate algorithms, the kind that quietly filtered out resumes from women, people of color, older candidates. It didn't just expose the problem. It named it. We called it Vigilant. I remember the first demo. It stunned everyone. We tested it internally on old HR data, anonymized, of course, and the results were damning. Vigilant found patterns that pointed to years of biased hiring, some of it clearly illegal. We thought we were about to change the world. Mason shut it down within 48 hours. He said it didn't align with Everin's market focus. But behind closed doors, I overheard something I was never meant to hear. He told legal, if that tool gets out, we're looking at audits, lawsuits, and a PR nightmare. Kill it. Burn the code. I was stunned. I wanted to fight it. But HR warned me that if I pushed further, I'd be violating my non-disclosure terms. They locked the project files behind restricted access. But here's the thing about engineers. We save everything. I'd built the prototype on a personal dev environment. Nothing proprietary, just my own work, built from open frameworks. I never deleted it. So when Layla gave me full creative freedom at Vexora, I dusted it off, rebranded it, rebuilt it stronger with new models, transparent reporting, immutable audit logs. We called it Ethos. And now we were ready to announce it. I told Layla about the history behind it, and what Everin tried to suppress. She leaned back, folded her arms, and said, "Then we lead with it." A week later, we dropped a teaser video online. Meet Ethos, the future of corporate accountability, built by those who refused to stay silent. It exploded. Within 48 hours, we had over 1.2 million views. Hundreds of CEOs and DEI leaders reached out. But the biggest bomb? A mid-level data analyst at Everin, someone I'd barely spoken to in years, messaged me anonymously. He said, "I saw what you're doing. I have internal emails from when Mason shut down Vigilant. They prove he knew it was discriminatory and buried it to protect the company image." He attached them. Mason's name was all over them. The files were dated, time-stamped, and damning. Layla's legal team reviewed them. Her eyes were fire when she said, "We go public, but on your terms." It was my story now. The only question left was, how much did I want to reveal? Because this wasn't just about getting even. It was about burning the mask Mason wore, and making damn sure no one else would hide behind it again. They gave me 10 minutes of airtime. Prime slot, live broadcast. Not just a blog post or press release. This was me, on stage, under the lights, telling the story myself. The Vexora PR team wanted polish, a safe, sanitized version. But Layla looked me in the eye backstage and said, "Tell the truth. We're backing you." So I did. I stood there in front of a packed room at the Global AI Integrity Summit. Thousands of live viewers and a sea of executives, journalists, and techies. And I told them everything. I told them how I created Vigilant, how it worked, what it exposed, how Everin praised me in private, then buried the project and tried to bury me along with it. I read a quote from one of Mason's internal emails aloud, voice steady. Kill it. If this tool leaks, we'll be crucified. We sell innovation, not guilt. The room froze. You could hear chairs creaking as people leaned forward. Phones came out. Thumbs started tapping. I watched it unfold in real time, jaws tightening, eyes widening. It wasn't a speech. It was a reckoning. Then I introduced Ethos. I demoed it live, showed how it identified real hiring biases in synthetic datasets, explained how it made audit trails immutable, how companies could use it to not just look ethical, but become accountable. The standing ovation didn't hit right away. It built, slowly, like a tide. One person, then another, then a full wave of applause and murmurs that sounded like relief. Afterward, I walked off stage, shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. I'd just done what Everin swore I never would. I'd made noise, real noise. And right then, a Vexora coordinator rushed up to me, phone in hand. "Jason, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward me. Mason was trending, but not for the reasons he wanted. Hashtags like "Naketshandstuk Justice for Vigilant," "Forchakortar," "Heart of Darkness," and "Jason Maddox Truth" were everywhere. A leaked video of him berating a junior dev surfaced, red-faced, spitting threats, calling them replaceable code monkeys. It was brutal. Everin's board had gone into emergency session. An anonymous insider leaked that they were considering a full leadership shakeup. And then came the call. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered out of instinct. "Jason." I knew that voice. "Mason," I said. There was a pause, then, "What do you want?" It wasn't an apology. It wasn't anger. It was fear. And I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. So I gave him the truth. "I don't want anything from you," I said, "but the industry deserves to see who you really are, and now they do." I hung up. And in that quiet, I felt something click into place. Not triumph. Closure. But there was still one thing left to do. Because the real story, the one that would outlive all of this, wasn't about Mason. It was about everyone else he tried to silence. The press release called it a strategic transition. But the industry wasn't fooled. Investors started pulling back from Everin. Their DEI officer stepped down days later. A full internal audit was launched. Quiet panic behind the scenes. Loud silence everywhere else. But I didn't watch from the sidelines. I built. We launched Ethos in beta to 5 partner companies. I spent nights poring over feedback, redesigning flows, writing documentation like my life depended on it. Because, in a way, it did. But what really pushed me wasn't just proving Mason wrong. It was the messages. They started rolling in after my talk. Not the congratulatory ones from execs. I mean the quiet ones, the personal ones. From engineers who'd been pushed out. From HR analysts who caught bias, but were told to focus on culture fit. From a woman who built a diversity algorithm that got shelved for optics. One message stood out. From a guy named Andre, a data scientist who was part of my team years ago at Everin. Mason had pushed him out during a restructure. Andre had gone silent after, vanished from the scene. His message read, "I watched your talk. First time I've opened LinkedIn in a year. I cried. You said what I never could. If you're hiring, I'd love a second shot." I offered him more than a shot. I made him co-lead of our bias resolution engine. Within a month, he was presenting at our internal showcase. Full circle. That became my mission. Not vengeance, not even vindication. Restoration. I started a fellowship, the Vigilant Collective, a mentorship and funding initiative for engineers and data professionals who'd been iced out by corporate politics. People with ideas, heart, and no platform. And in every talk I gave, every boardroom I sat in, I reminded them, the best minds in tech aren't always in corner offices. Sometimes they're the ones quietly let go after changing everything. The irony? Everin later tried to license Ethos. They offered an absurd figure. Layla laughed when she saw the email. Do we even respond? I said, no. But let's send them a copy of the white paper. I mailed it myself. No return address. And then I got back to work. Because the truth is, I didn't need to burn bridges. I just had to build a better road. One where people like me, like us, didn't have to beg to be seen. We'd just build loud enough that they couldn't look away.